ladies, we are on Deuteronomy 9. Next week I'm going to run out of fingers. Okay, Deuteronomy 9. It starts out with, you are about to dispossess nations that are greater and stronger than you. So basically they're going to possess their lands, but they're going to dispossess them of their own nations with large cities that have walls up to the sky. He said that before, when the spies went in there, walls all the way up to the sky. And I'm like, how tall are these walls that are all the way up to the sky? And I know it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but they were kind of big. Okay, so it was the walls of Jericho, was the first city in Canaan that they attacked, that the Israelites attacked and took over. So this is how big they were. The walls of Jericho. There was a stone retaining wall that was about 12 to 15 feet high. And then on top of that was a mud brick wall, and it was 6 inches thick and another 20 to 26 feet high. At the crest of the embankment was a similar mud brick wall, and whose base was roughly 46 feet above the ground level outside the retaining wall. So humanly speaking, it was absolutely impossible for the Israelites to penetrate Jericho, the city of Jericho, but they did. You know why? Because God told them they just walk around it until the walls fell down. And it worked. So anyway, that's the size of the walls that they were mentioning in the beginning of Deuteronomy 9. Of the walls of the city that the Israelites are going to dispossess the nations that are greater and stronger than them. The people are strong and tall. They're Anakites. So the Anakites actually were giant warlike people living in Hebron, which is southern Israel. Before the arrival of the Israelites, that's where they were living. And Caleb, which was one of the 12 spies that was sent in by Moses that went into Canaan before, he eventually ends up driving these people out because he gets to go, right? Because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly, and he had the faith that God would bring them to victory over the Canaanites, and he does. So anyway, that's where they are with that. So the people were great and tall, according to the spies' report. After this is kind of like in the future, but after the Israelites go in and destroy the Canaanites and all of that, there's a small remnant of Anakites that were left, these giant people. And scholars believe that their descendants were the giants that, remember when David fights the Philistine giant from the Philistine? They think that might have come from the Anakites, which they were supposedly destroy the whole city, but of course they left some people. They didn't kill everybody, and so obviously we come back years later and find these giants that are up against David in the future. Anyway, that's a little bit of history. Totally off track of Deuteronomy 9, but it gives you that information. Okay, so it says, you know about them and have heard it said, who can stand up against the Anakites? But be assured today that the Lord your God is the one who goes across ahead of you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them, he will subdue them before you, and you will drive them out and annihilate them quickly, as the Lord has promised you. Annihilate. That's a big word. Okay, after the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say to yourself, oh, the Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness. No, it is on account of the wickedness of the nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you. Not because they were righteous, but the other nations were so wicked. And in order for God to accomplish what he needed to accomplish, which was he's sworn to the forefathers, he had to destroy all those wicked people. Okay, it says, but on account of the wickedness, the Lord your God will drive them out and accomplish that which he swore to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand then that it is not because of your righteousness that the Lord your God is giving you the good land to possess, because you are stiff-necked people. Oh, stubborn Israel. God calls them stiff-necked people. And they were terribly stiff. Okay, so chapter 7, or verse 7, sorry, chapter 9, verse 7. Remember this and never forget how you aroused the anger of the Lord your God in the wilderness. From the day you left Egypt until you arrived, you have been rebellious against the Lord. They were rebellious the whole time. And that's, remember, we were talking about how God had to change their character and make them, come around and before he would give them the promised land. So at Horeb, you aroused the Lord's wrath so that he was angry enough to destroy you. God was so angry with the Israelites. He just wanted to wipe them out. He was like, you know what? I'm done. They're rebellious. They're not listening. Blah. And so he said God was ready to destroy them. But Moses went up onto the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant that the Lord had made for them. And he stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. He ate no bread and drank no water. The Lord gave him 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God, and on them were all the commandments that the Lord proclaimed to you on the mountain out of the fire on the day of assembly. At the end of the 40 days and 40 nights, the Lord gave me 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. Then the Lord told me, go down from here at once, because your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have become corrupt. He says, they have turned away from what I commanded them and have made an idol for themselves. They made a golden calf. It's like, you just heard God speak out of the fire, and, Moses is still up there dealing with all, talking to God, and you're busy like, oh, I think we're gonna go make a gold idol. Okay, whatever. This is just absolutely bizarre to me to be in those circumstances and still not get it. Okay, so the Lord tells them, go down from here, quickly commanded them out of themselves. So, and the Lord said to me, I have seen this people, and they are stiff-necked people indeed. God's like, they are so stiff-necked. He says, let me alone so that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make you a nation stronger and more numerous than they. I just wanted to get rid of them. So Moses turned around, went down to the mountain, and while it was ablaze with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenants were in his hands, when he looked up and saw that how they had sinned against God, he said, you made yourselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. So I took the 2 tablets and I threw them out of my hands, breaking them to pieces before your eyes. He had just spent 40 days and 40 nights with God, has these tablets written with the finger of God, and he broke them. Just smashed them. He was so mad at their behavior, so disappointed in how they were behaving, and now they got an idol and blah. So he says, then Moses says, then once again I fell prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights. I ate no bread and drank no water because of all of the sin that you had committed, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight and arousing his anger. I feared the anger and the wrath of the Lord. He was angry enough with you to destroy you. But again, the Lord listened to me. Moses is telling them that God listened to Moses as he pled that they would not be destroyed. So he says, and the Lord was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him, but at that time I prayed for Aaron too. So he says, also I took that sinful thing of yours, the calf that you made, I burnt it in the fire. Not only did he burn it in the fire, he said he crushed it and ground it into powder, as fine as dust, and threw the dust into a stream that flowed down the mountain. He had ground it all the way into powder. Remember, we can't use these idols that are melted down. They couldn't keep the silver and the gold from the last chapter. And again, here we are. We're dealing with this gold calf. He basically gets it down, grinds it right down to powder, and puts it in the river and goes down the mountain, because he's like, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. You didn't want them to be able to collect it up and reuse it. So he says, and when the Lord sent you, he said, come up and take possession of the land I've given you, but you rebelled against the command of the Lord. You did not trust him or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord ever since I have known you. Seriously. So Moses lay prostrate before the Lord for the 40 days and 40 nights, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. I prayed to the Lord and said, sovereign God, do not destroy your people. For they are your own inheritance that you redeemed by your great power and brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Overlook the stubbornness of these people, their wickedness and their sin. Otherwise, the country from which you brought us will say, because the Lord was not able to take them into the land he had promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to put them to death in the wilderness. So Moses is basically saying, if you don't do this, if you don't fulfill your promise, if you don't do as you said you're going to do, and because of their wickedness and all the other stuff, if you don't do that, then people are going to basically be mocking you. They're going to turn around and say, oh, he promised them that he was going to take them out of the land. All he did was take them out into the desert and wilderness, and they all died. And so they're basically going to be questioning God, because God said he's going to do something, and this would change what he said he was going to do. But they are your people, your inheritance that you brought out with great power and your outstretched arm. So God decides that fine, he's going to let them live, he's going to let them go to the promised land, but one of the conditions is that the original generation's not going to be going, not gonna see it. They're all going to die beforehand, and that's why it takes so long to do all of that. So guys, it's exhausting to think that they knew God, they heard God's voice, they had the promises, they had the tablets, and they had Moses to teach them, and they were still stiff-necked people. So kind of explains why when we talk to people that they can be really stubborn. And I know some of us can be really stubborn. I mean, God tells us this is what I want you to do, blah, blah, blah. We don't do it, And so I want us to really pray about that, pray about our stubbornness, pray about how we can maybe be less stubborn and find a way that we can be more willing to hear what God has to say and being obedient to his word and his ways, because his ways are the ways, the best ways. And sometimes we think that we got a better idea, but God's got the best idea. So let's pray about it. Let's read. Let's be obedient. And let's not be stiff-necked.